And away we go. Episode 1122 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, July 30th, 2025, the day after Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin, for a third consecutive day, signed autographs for and posed for pictures with fans at 2025 Commanders training camp. If you didn't know better, you'd think that McLaurin is running for office, but the hold-in does continue, but so does him being good to fans. This is an off day at training camp, but no practice on this day. A day of rest, a day for reflection. We on this installment of the podcast will not rest, but we will reflect. Next segment, Commanders head coach Dan Quinn in a conversation with ESPN NFL writer Kevin Clark, comping Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels with one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, Pro Football Hall of Famer Peyton Manning. Now, the comp was of Daniels' work ethic with that of Manning, but it still was something to hear what Quinn said. It was exciting to hear what Quinn said, and what Quinn said, dare I say, was appropriate. This was not some outlandish thing that Quinn said, and that's the point. Reaction and analysis next segment. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, on which we talk Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year. This is a podcast for which there is a new episode each weekday, Monday through Friday, with each episode out by 5 a.m. Eastern, and often much earlier than that. Also coming up on the show is a segment on which we'll go in depth on the latest from Commanders training camp, including discussion of tight end Zach Ertz, receiver Noah Brown, quarterback Marcus Mariota, retiring guard Nate Herbig, and multiple camp standouts. Who is standing out? We'll get into running back Jacory Croskey-Merritt, receiver Luke McCaffrey, tight end Ben Sinnott, and cornerback Mike Sainristil. And on the show, we'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats, they on Tuesday night lost at the American League West leading Houston Astros 7-4, starting pitcher and trade chip Michael Soroka lasted for just 3 1/3 innings. He allowed 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings. The O's, they on Tuesday swept a doubleheader against the American League leading Toronto Blue Jays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Tuesday afternoon, a 16-4 win. Tuesday evening, a 3-2 win. And the O's, in between the two games, made a trade with the Blue Jays. The O's on Tuesday evening announced having traded reliever Seranthony Dominguez and cash considerations to the Blue Jays for starting pitching prospect Juaron Watts-Brown. A good trade by the O's. I'll explain. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Sean on the state of the Commanders. Right, Sean. Hello, Al. I trust that all is well with you and yours, with the team's success and the lack of dysfunction circling the team. I've been able to just enjoy the quality podcast that you put forth on a daily basis. However, I did ponder a thought or two about the team. I know that platitudes have been bestowed upon lead owner Josh Harris and the ownership group for the great job that they have done since rescuing the team from the abyss that the team had been in. It could be said that the ownership has had the Midas touch since securing ownership of the football team. The group secured the services of the most sought-after front office candidate in Adam Peters. The group navigated murky waters with a head coach search that, despite some turbulence with Ben Johnson, led to the team ultimately signing Dan Quinn as the correct head coach. The group benefited from the drafting of a franchise quarterback in the form of Jayden Daniels, that being a franchise quarterback who we as a fan base had been pining for decades to secure. The group even stands on the cusp of returning the football team back to the promised land of the RFK side, something that seemed inconceivable just 3 years ago. Kudos for all of these accomplishments. However, I do believe that the group needs more acknowledgement and appreciation for the fine line that the group has towed as it pertains to this fan base. The ownership inherited a fan base suffering from extreme atrophy of fandom per the previous owner, who shall not be named. The ownership group could have either pressed forward and pursued and cultivated new fans free of the stench from the previous 20-plus years and deemed the seasoned fans expendable, or the group could have attempted to find a defibrillator and attempted to resuscitate that part of the fan base. Well, the group has chosen to do both. Older fans usually fund franchises like this since they have more disposable income. It's always a good thing to embrace the past. However, if you don't have a thriving, youthful presence to reinvigorate and provide enthusiasm in most endeavors, then whatever you're attempting to pursue is usually dead on arrival. All of that is to say that we saw the living embodiment of my analogy in the rollout of the new alternate jersey on July 9th. The team didn't roll out a new version of the burgundy and gold that Bruce Allen trotted back out in tribute to his father, George Allen's years as coach. No, the group chose to bring back the jersey worn in the championship years, the glory years, the Joe Gibbs version 1.0 years. The jersey looks great. The jersey is aesthetically pleasing to the eye so as to please the younger portion of the fan base that has no attachment to the jersey. Yet when I saw the photos, I smiled. And instantaneously, my mind was flooded with countless memories from those 1980s and early 1990s teams. We now get to see Jayden Daniels and our team, the Commanders, produce new memories and hopefully contend for Super Bowls back in the look that the team should have never veered away from. It is my hope that as we get further away from the wreckage of the previous 20-plus years, that there will be less discussion about jerseys and names. Instead, we will engage in conversations about the product on the field and the feelings generated by the talented players assembled under Josh Harris and this ownership group. A tip of the hat and a thank you to Josh Harris from this fan. Take care, Al, and continue the great job that you do daily. Well, thank you very much for that email, Sean. Well done. I don't know that any non-football decision or act or occurrence involving the Commanders over the last 5 years has been as well received as the team on July 9th unveiling that Redskins-like alternate uniform for the 2025 season. And my hope is that that uniform becomes the team's number one uniform beginning with the 2026 season. But the praise for this alternate uniform has been universal. No matter how you feel about the name or anything else, you like this alternate uniform. It really is amazing. I can't recall any non-football item with this team over the last 5 years, and maybe a lot longer, being as well received as this alt uni. And I think that this is about a lot of things, but principal among those things is the emotional connection that so many of us as fans have to this team, especially if you were around for at least some of the glory days of 1982 through 1992. The struggles for the team in the latter years of it being owned by Jack Kent Cooke, the dysfunction and ineptitude for the team during its time being owned by Dan Snyder, the name change, all of those things did massive damage to the emotional connection that so many of us as fans have to the team. And for some people, that connection was forever ruined. But that Redskins-like alternate uniform that was unveiled by the team on July 9th, combined with the team being in a much better place these days, was like a massive reigniting of the emotional connection. And so you have people loving that uniform and, like me, hoping that it becomes the team's number one uniform beginning with the 2026 season. Hey, if you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. Has Washington at long last found a true solution at quarterback? Not someone who's good for at most a few seasons, but someone who is a true franchise quarterback, a quality QB1 for our team for years to come, to say nothing of being an elite QB1. Jayden Daniels, of course, is off to an amazing start, an all-time great rookie season. It was, though, just one season. The test now is, does he stack one great season on top of another, and then stack another great season on top of the previous great season, and then stack another great season on top of the previous great season? You get the idea. But there, as best as we can tell, is every reason to believe that Daniels is that guy, that he is him, and that he is perhaps about to leap into being a truly elite NFL quarterback in just his second NFL season. We on Tuesday morning on YouTube had the release of a conversation that ESPN NFL writer Kevin Clark had with Commanders head coach Dan Quinn for the show This Is Football with Kevin Clark, a product of Omaha Productions, which was founded in part by Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback Peyton Manning. And I mention that because that is relevant to what we're about to hear. During the conversation between Clark and Quinn, had this back and forth, beginning with a question regarding Cliff Kingsbury being back for a second season as Commanders' offensive coordinator.
Bringing Cliff Kingsbury back, so often it's such a huge competitive advantage to have a rookie quarterback. You know, we had Peyton Manning on the show, our boss, a couple months ago, and I said, why do young quarterbacks fail? And he said, oftentimes it's because you try to teach them 4 different languages in 4 years. You try, you give them the playbook. Okay, this guy's gone. Give him another playbook. Yep. Okay, well, I just learned that playbook. How much is that stability, bring back the entire coaching staff, going to matter on this team?
Through Adam and myself, you have to be intentional about that and create an ecosystem for that. Speaking of Peyton, and I couldn't think of a better coach to start off with Tom Moore of this is step by step. When you're developing somebody, you don't want to miss one step on that ladder like this, and then we can get to this. And we'll be able to do some more things in year 2 because we've taken the right steps in year 1. So I think oftentimes as coaches, we want to hurry up and get to the next install, to the next thing, man. Let's make sure, what does the player know? What can they execute? And that's ultimately what matters. And so I think about Peyton and, his work ethic is legendary. Jayden has a lot of those traits from working and wanting to be right and loving football. And that's not something that's coming from coaching, but it's our responsibility to say this step, and be very intentional about it.
That's awesome. A couple questions about Jayden. First of all, what are you challenging him? You said a lot of it is just him wanting to be great. Obviously, he's going to put in the work, but in year 2, I'm sure you're putting things on his plate. What are you challenging him with to get better at?
He started the offseason. These were specific technique things, so that was the on-the-field portion. Then, how can we also get rid of some concepts that, okay, was this worth the squeeze to go through it, and then add some. So that's the balance of finding the right flow that he and his teammates can, absolutely execute and go let it rip. But he's off to a great start. He's really a focused and hard working dude, much like Peyton. The unseen work is really what matters the most, that they got to put it in.
Can you give an example of the unseen work?
The unseen work would be just recently, it's dark out, and I see him walking in the early hours of the morning, walking back off the field because he was already going through some things that he wanted to do to be ready for that day.
That's a good silhouette to see.
Yes,
Your star player walking
off
off
the weight room and looking out, and I'm thinking, okay,
you got it.
Yes,
we got it.
Yeah, I don't need to acknowledge that. I need to, and I know that happens. He's early and doing extra, but it is it's who he is. It's all the time, and it is one of the things I really admire about him.
So, Dan Quinn comparing Jayden Daniels' work ethic to that of Peyton Manning, especially with, as Quinn called it, quote, the unseen work, end quote. And that led to that great anecdote that we just heard. But man, an NFL head coach usually is trying to tamper down expectations and hype. In this case, Quinn fueled the expectations and hype, comping Daniels to one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, albeit in terms of work ethic. Quinn did not declare that Daniels is going to accomplish everything that Manning accomplished. But what's funny about hearing that is that, and I don't know about you, but I was not turned off by hearing that. I'm normally not a big fan of my NFL head coach making loud proclamations that could come back to bite him. I grew up with Joe Gibbs as my NFL head coach. Speak humbly, that kind of thing. I, in football and in life, am a big believer in the philosophy espoused by a former president of this country, Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly and carry a big stick. That's a great phrase. Speak softly and carry a big stick. But in this case, I found what Dan Quinn said in comping Jayden Daniels' work ethic to that of Peyton Manning as Quinn simply saying something that's true. Quinn was not being cocky or arrogant or boisterous. He simply was highlighting something that we've come to know. Jayden Daniels is really special from a work ethic standpoint. And it also was interesting to hear Quinn comp the Daniels-Cliff Kingsbury dynamic to the Manning-Tom Moore dynamic. Tom Moore was the Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator for the 1998 through 2008 seasons, then was the Colts senior offensive coordinator for the 2009 season, and then was the Colts senior offensive assistant for the 2010 season. Peyton Manning played for the Colts for the 1998 through 2010 seasons. He sat out the entire 2011 season due to a neck injury. So he and Tom Moore were together for every season in which Manning played for the Colts. That kind of continuity is remarkable. I'm not sure that we'll get that with Jayden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury, a decade plus of them being together. But the Commanders, as we have discussed, and as Quinn referenced in that cut that I played for you, have built a terrific ecosystem for Daniels to where even if Kingsbury leaves for a head coaching job, the team can be just fine. There are multiple capable Kingsbury successors already on the Commanders' coaching staff. You know, we have waited so long for it to be the case that a Washington quarterback could be comped to someone like Peyton Manning and that not be a joke or not be done at a sarcasm. And my friends, we have arrived at that point. Enjoy it, soak it in, revel in it. We, as a fan base, have earned this. The schedule for 2025 Commanders training camp so far has been 3 days on, 1 day off. The first full team practice at camp was last Wednesday, July 23rd. The team practiced last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then had an off day on Saturday. The team then practiced this past Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and now has an off day on this Wednesday. Commanders head coach Dan Quinn did a pre-practice press conference on Tuesday morning. During that presser, had this exchange between Commanders insider Nikki Javala of The Athletic and Quinn. Yes, Nikki now is with The Athletic. She left the Washington Post, but here you go.
You guys have an off day tomorrow, and then it's just going to be walkthroughs Friday. Just curious, what was sort of the thinking behind it?
Yeah, we know it's a long training camp, so once in a while they'll be in a block of 2 out of 3. So that's leading up into the next set that goes into New England, some high practices. So you kind of want some highs followed by some lows to recover some highs. And you need the high days. You need those. So what you want to avoid is high and then higher, and then you can get at risk. So it's by design just to keep the highs up. And you'll see a lot of plays today. Today's one of the high ones.
Well, a big thing with Dan Quinn is taking care of players and being mindful of rest. And this is the modern analytics-driven approach to workload in sports. And we know that the Commanders are in on analytics like never before, given that managing partner Josh Harris is a big analytics person. But a prime example of the team taking care of a player and thus getting a lot out of that player is tight end Zach Ertz. The team this past March 11th announced having re-signed Ertz off him having been set to be an unrestricted free agent in the 2025 offseason. He reportedly signed a 1-year contract. The team initially signed Ertz on March 12th, 2024 as an unrestricted free agent to a 1-year contract. Last season was Ertz's age 34 season. He went into the season having been injured a bunch in recent years. Ertz in the 2020 regular season missed 5 games due to a high ankle sprain. Ertz in November 2022 suffered a torn ACL and torn MCL. Ertz in the 2023 regular season missed 5 games due to a quadriceps injury. But Ertz for the Commanders played in all 17 of their games in the 2024 regular season and then played in all 3 of the team's games this past postseason, and he was very productive. Zach Ertz did a post-practice press conference this past Friday morning. During that presser had this exchange between Commanders insider J.P. Finley of NBC4 and Ertz.
You've talked about how DQ really takes care of his vets. Was there ever a moment for you where you keep pushing, and it was weird for you to get, hey, you're not practicing today, or we need you to slow it down?
I mean, some guys had off days yesterday. I was kind of supposed to be in that group, but he's receptive to my feelings as well. I've always been a guy that kind of just wants to overwork himself, so I need people like DQ to kind of keep me from myself, or so I don't go too far. And oftentimes I've gone too far where it ends in injury or whatnot. So DQ, the thing that's amazing about DQ, and it's not just in this situation, he over-communicates, which a lot of coaches, when players are just left to their own thoughts, it's a dangerous spot. You don't know kind of the motivation, the quote-unquote agenda, whatever it is. But DQ is very forthcoming in why he's doing something, why he was. He's like, you're not going to practice. Last year in training camp, I did practice every day. During the season, I didn't practice on Wednesdays, but I'm not going to practice every day in training camp this year. We had a long season last year. We want to have another long season this year. So oftentimes I need people to kind of keep me from myself, and DQ has just been amazing at that.
Really good insight from Zach Ertz there on the dynamic between veteran player and Dan Quinn when it comes to workload. Another Commanders player whose workload is being monitored by the team is receiver Noah Brown, who has a significant injury history. The Commanders last August 29th announced having signed Brown as an unrestricted free agent. This off the Houston Texans last August 27th in their cut down to 53, having released Brown. Brown, over 11 games in the 2024 regular season, had 35 receptions for 453 yards and a touchdown on 56 targets, and his touchdown catch was the Hail Noah. But the Commanders last December 14th announced having placed Brown on the reserve/injured list. This due to a kidney injury that he suffered in the team's 42-19 win over the Tennessee Titans at Northwest Stadium on December 1st. And Brown, this past June 11th, got carted off the field on what was day 2 of the team's 3-day mandatory minicamp. We, to this day, do not know what exactly that injury was. Noah Brown did a post-practice press conference on Tuesday morning. This was Brown on what happened in June.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get banged up, it's not fun. But I was blessed to be okay and be able to get back in time for training camp and work out with the guys and build towards what we're trying to accomplish. So I'm excited about it.
All right, there you go. Noah Brown can play. He just has had a hard time staying healthy. Brown spent the 2023 season with the Texans. He over 10 games for the Texans in the 2023 regular season. Had 33 receptions for 567 yards and 2 touchdowns on 55 targets. He, for the 2023 regular season, was number 4 among all qualified receivers in the NFL and yards per reception at 17.2. But Brown did deal with injuries during that 2023 season with the Texans. He, over September 2023 and October 2023, missed 4 consecutive games due to a groin injury. He, in November 2023, missed 2 consecutive games due to a knee injury. He, in January 2024, missed the Texans' regular season finale due to a back injury. And he, in the Texans' 45-14 win over the Cleveland Browns on January 13th, 2024, in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs, suffered a shoulder injury that landed him on the reserve/injured list. Noah Brown was taken by the Dallas Cowboys out of Ohio State in the 7th round of the 2017 NFL Draft. He played for the Cowboys for the 2017 through 2022 season, so there is a Dan Quinn connection. Quinn was the Cowboys defensive coordinator for the 2021 through 2023 seasons. NFL teams during training camps are not required by the league to put out injury reports or announce injuries or give injury updates or anything like that. So it can be difficult to determine when a player is being given a day off due to rest versus is being given a day off due to being injured. That said, the Commanders' QB2, Marcus Mariota, he did not participate in team drills during practice on Monday morning, prompting this exchange on Tuesday morning between Nicky Jhabvala and Dan Quinn.
I just had a quick question about Mariota. We only saw him in sort of some limited snaps yesterday. I know you don't have to report injuries, but are you able to give an update on kind of...
Yeah, he'll do the same part of that today. He'll just do more of the individual work, and then different days we're like ramping certain guys up really high and certain guys down low. But Marcus, like sometimes just precautionary to get the skill work stuff and not the teamwork. So it's kind of custom Nicky as we go through. But you'll see similar process with him today, and then he'll ramp back up more in the next block.
All right, so Marcus Mariota being kept fresh. The Commanders have 3 games in the 2025 preseason. I don't know that there's any reason for the QB1, Jayden Daniels, or the QB2, Marcus Mariota, to play a single snap this preseason. I mean, each guy had a terrific 2024 season given his role. We know what each guy is. The Commanders have 2 other quarterbacks in Sam Hartman and Josh Johnson. I really do wonder if we might not see Daniels or Mariota at all this coming preseason. Someone who we definitely will not see playing for the Commanders this coming preseason is Nate Herbig. The Commanders early Tuesday morning announced having placed guard Nate Herbig on the reserve/retired list. So he's retiring. The team this past March 20th announced having signed Herbig as an unrestricted free agent. The 2025 season was to be just his age 27 season, but he has not played in an NFL regular season game since January 6th, 2024. His previous team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they last August 20th put him on the reserve/injured list due to a torn rotator cuff. Herbig, over the 2019 through 2023 regular seasons, played for the Philadelphia Eagles, New York Jets, and Steelers, totaling 30 starts. So here was Dan Quinn on Tuesday morning on Nate Herbig retiring.
the team placed Nate Herbig on reserve, retired today. It was a personal decision by him. He was a great teammate here, and we wish Nate absolutely the best. So I wanted to make sure pass that information along to you today.
All right, a happy retirement to Nate Herbig. This happens during training camps. Players deciding to retire, players deciding that the NFL is not for them. We had this with Antonio Gandy Golden. Do you remember him? Do you remember AGG? The Redskins took receiver Antonio Gandy Golden out of Liberty in the 4th round of the 2020 NFL Draft. This was a highly praised pick. ESPN NFL front office insider and former Skins executive Louis Riddick, he on the ESPN/ABC telecast of Day 3 of the 2020 NFL Draft, called the Skins taking Gandy Golden a, quote, spectacular pick by the Redskins, end quote. But Gandy Golden did not do much over the 2020 and 2021 seasons. Then Commanders head coach Ron Rivera on May 24th, 2022, in a post-OTA practice press conference confirmed that Gandy Golden was switching from receiver to tight end. But then Rivera on July 28th, 2022, in his post-practice press conference on Day 2 of 2022 Commanders training camp, announced that Gandy Golden had decided to retire. The NFL career of AGG did not pan out. I did want to hit on some training camp standouts for the Commanders so far. One is running back Jacory Croskey-Merritt, the man known as Bill. People are raving about this guy. The Commanders took him out of the University of Arizona in the 7th round of the 2025 NFL Draft. If you are betting money on who will be a preseason hero for the Commanders this year, bet on this guy. Bet on Bill. Now, as we know, drawing praise during training camp and being a preseason hero, those things guarantee nothing for a player when it comes to the regular season. But as we also know, the running back position is such that a Day 3 rookie can make an immediate impact. That has happened plenty in the NFL. We on Tuesday morning had this exchange between Commanders insider Ben Sinnott and Dan Quinn of the team's first padded practice of this camp on Monday morning.
Dan, I wanted to ask you about a specific rep from yesterday. There was a play where Bill runs up to the line, sees a hole, darts right through it, and on the other end is Tyler Owens. They have a nice collision there, and it keeps going. I'm just curious from both ends of that play, what did you see, what did you like with those two young guys kind of going after it?
Yeah, you picked a good one, Ben. I'm not even sure if this is on. We showed that actually yesterday in one of the team meetings. Each day we show plays in the team meeting, things we like, things we need to see different, and that was one of the ones. I loved the cut. There's actually two of them, Ben, one to the left, back to the right. The hole was small, and he hit it. And then as it gets to the next one, can you have a plan for the middle field safety? And that was Tyler on that play. So that's the lesson. Just because I got through the hole doesn't mean it's ending. Can I now make another player miss? And it was also the right technique, what we're looking for Tyler. That's the iron sharpened iron, Ben, of hard tackle in the middle of the field, putting Tyler into that space. That's why you do it with the pads.
Yes, it is. The violence of Jacory Croskey-Merritt is a big part of his appeal. We heard about that from a great guest, Heath Ridenour, on episode 1067 of this podcast. Heath Ridenour was the University of New Mexico's running backs coach for the 2023 season, during which Jacory Croskey-Merritt for New Mexico had a monster season. Also standing out during Commanders training camp so far, certainly according to Dan Quinn, because he has brought up these guys multiple times, are receiver Luke McCaffrey and tight end Ben Sinnott. Two guys who had disappointing 2024 rookie seasons, but two guys for whom there is hope. The Commanders took Sinnott out of Kansas State in the 2nd round of the 2024 NFL Draft. They took McCaffrey out of Rice in the 3rd round of the 2024 NFL Draft. McCaffrey, a converted quarterback. We on Tuesday morning had this exchange between Adam Kilgore of the Washington Post and Dan Quinn.
Luke McCaffrey has been getting a lot of opportunities with the ones especially. What have you seen from him, and kind of what are you hoping to see from him as training camp unfolds?
Yeah, two players come to mind going into second year on the offense regarding the skill spots, Luke and Ben. And in different ways, they both made their impact, and you see them just the confidence, so much more knowledgeable in the system. There was a play Ben had on a seam route yesterday that took a certain check against the blitz that he and Jayden had to go execute. a year ago that would have been harder for him to have that nuance, and you saw that yesterday with Ben. With Luke, it's been a lot of the same, where he can go outside and inside, but the smallest skill work adjustments have been made. He was always somebody that could pick up on the offense quickly. He's got a background as quarterback, but you kind of see, like, maybe before there were still some times, I think, like a quarterback. Now you see him thinking like the receiver. And I think, although that sounds like counterintuitive, like more knowledge, wouldn't that be better? The finest of the details at the receiver position, that's what I see now.
There was a lot of optimism for Ben Sinnott and Luke McCaffrey when they got drafted. Each guy played in all 17 of the Commanders' games in the 2024 regular season, and in all 3 of the Commanders' games this past postseason, but each guy ended up not playing that much on offense. So Sinnott played on just 26.74% of the Commanders' offensive snaps last regular season. McCaffrey played on just 36.03% of the Commanders' offensive snaps last regular season, and the two guys last regular season combined for just 23 receptions. So Sinnott had 5 receptions for 28 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets. McCaffrey had 18 receptions for 168 yards and no touchdowns on 24 targets. So Sinnott, over the Commanders' 3 games this past postseason, had 1 reception for 23 yards on 1 target, which was the fake punt play in the NFC Championship game. McCaffrey, over the Commanders' 3 games this past postseason, had no receptions on 1 target. But each guy is standing out to Dan Quinn right now. And another second-year player who's standing out is cornerback Mike Sainristil. The Commanders took him out of the University of Michigan in the second round of the 2024 NFL Draft. He, of course, had a very encouraging rookie season, played in all 17 of the Commanders' games last regular season, played in all 3 of the team's games this past postseason. He, during his rookie season, transitioned from being a slot corner to being an outside corner, and he did some really good things. I mean, the 45-31 win at the Detroit Lions this past January 18th in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, Sainristil played on 96% of the Commanders' defensive snaps and had 2 interceptions, became the first Washington player to have at least 2 interceptions in a playoff game since cornerback Barry Wilburn had 2 interceptions in the Redskins' 42-10 win over the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 22 at Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego on January 31st, 1988. Mikey Sainristil was a team captain for Michigan for the 2022 and 2023 seasons. Michigan won the College Football Playoff National Championship for the 2023 season. We on Tuesday morning had this exchange between WUSA 9 sports anchor Chick Hernandez and Dan Quinn.
Still was a rookie last year. Now there's oftentimes when he's talking with Trey, and you can see now veteran helping rookie. Is that what you want out of your guys, and how cool is that to see?
Yeah, Mike he's got a lot of special traits, leading as well, and that's not surprising to see that. It was in his first year more difficult to do that, and now he has stepped into that space more. And honestly, for Trey, like, what a great teammate to have that resource to talk about different things. But yeah, he's really has, like, I've been bragging about him for a long time, but Mike has a lot of leadership to him, and it's, you hear me talk about developing the leaders within, he's very much in the front of that list.
Yeah, a lot to like about Mikey Sainristil. He did a post-practice press conference on Tuesday morning. We, during that presser, had this exchange between Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports and Sainristil.
So what has been the biggest difference for you in, obviously last year you're a rookie, so now you coming in your second year in this system, what's been some of the biggest takeaways or aha moments, like, wow, I didn't realize this last year for you?
I think you kind of just find yourself, at least for me, I've found myself in a spot that is like, okay, here's what I did last year. During the off season, I was watching film on, just doing the self-study tape. And my off-season focus was how much better can I get at the things that I'm already good at, because I feel like often we lose sight of focusing on the things that we are good at because we want to put so much emphasis on the things we aren't good at. But you still have to sharpen both sides of the sword. So I wanted to make sure I kept making sure I'm good at the things that, I keep working at the things I'm good at, but still work on those things that need to improve. And that's finding, what that looks like on film, asking my coaches, what do you guys think I need to improve? Where can I make jumps? And then, just emphasizing my film study because I want to be able to go out there and just have everything just be second nature to me, you know what I mean? So, it gets to a point where everything you do during the week should just be, the tools you're sharpening, so that way when you come to Sunday, come to game time, you're not worried about anything anymore. You're just playing free. You know what the calls are. You're not second guessing anything. You believe what you're seeing on film. Then you're just going out there playing with the talent you have, using the tools the coaches have given you for the week. And then you're just going out and just making plays.
So the wild card is Marshon Lattimore. Does he stay healthy and does he play well? But if the answers to those questions are yes and yes, the Commanders have a chance to have a very good cornerback group for this coming season. You think about what the team has. Marshon Lattimore, Mike Sainristil, Trey Amos, Jonathan Jones, Noah Igbenogany. That's a top 5 at cornerback that has real potential. There have been some really good battles between Mike Sainristil and receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. so far in training camp. This was Sainristil on Tuesday morning on his battles with Deebo.
Deebo is Deebo, you know what I mean? We know him for the plays that he makes on Sundays, the things that he's been doing his whole career. For me, I've appreciated having him on the opposite side of me because I just know every single rep is going to be a rep to get get him better, get me better. I feel like that's what I needed, was to have somebody like him who's going to push me and, help me get better. We've done extra things after practice, whether it's walk through tempo, jog tempo, it doesn't matter. Just every single day, we both have the mindset of, we're gonna battle, we're gonna compete. You're gonna get better, I'm gonna get better. And what I think, he adds to the offense is just another weapon. He could take over a game. He could, he's done it. So I'm super excited to see, him perform this year and just, get back to just playing 11 football the way he does. And I think, whatever's happened in the past is the past. Him being here now, you could just feel the good energy. You could see the positivity in him, and he's just excited to be here and just ready to play and just, help this team win.
All right. The NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. It knows all about winning. Just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court in a case in which the NACE Law Group represented the family of a 42-year-old man who died after a simple procedure. Lead attorney Chris Nace, he is a big Commanders fan. He is a big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. If you have a case, contact the NACE Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The NACE Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. Lead attorney Chris Nace is an experienced trial attorney who is not afraid to take cases to trials, and that's because the NACE Law Group wins trials. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the NACE Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. We now are a day away from the 2025 MLB trade deadline, which is on Thursday, July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. The Nationals are sellers and hopefully will be trading away many of their players on expiring contracts. When it comes to the most notable Nats player mentioned as possibly being traded, their ace, Mackenzie Gore, who is under team control through the 2027 season. We did have this from MLB insider John Heyman of the New York Post in a post on X on Tuesday night. Quote, nearly every contender has checked on Nats all-star left-hander Mackenzie Gore. Nats are listening as promised, but most come away thinking Gore stays in D.C., end quote. I do think that Nats interim general manager Mike DeBartolo should at least listen to offers for Gore, because he could bring back a haul for a Nats rebuild that isn't working. But the reporting on this Gore situation has been that teams want him, not that the Nats are likely to trade him. We shall see. Gore is pitching for the Nats on Wednesday afternoon. Pitching for the Nats on Tuesday night was a starting pitcher who the Nats absolutely should trade in the lead up to this deadline, Michael Soroka. He's a veteran on a one-year contract. The Nats on Tuesday night lost at the American League West, leading Houston Astros 7-4 in Game 2 of a 3-game series, ending the Nats' 3-game winning streak and dropping the Nats to 44-63 in MLB's 2025 regular season. And Soroka did not exactly kill it. He lasted for just 3 1/3 innings. He allowed 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 2 singles. He issued a hit by pitch. He did have 4 strikeouts versus no walks. He threw 74 pitches, 47 strikes versus 27 balls. So Michael Soroka for the Nats this regular season, 16 starts, ERA of 4.87, but a whip of 1.13 and a strikeouts per 9 innings of 9.63. How much will teams value the peripherals versus that ERA that's approaching 5? Soroka was on the 15-day injured list from April 4th, retroactive to April 1st to May 7th. Due to a right arm bicep strain. The Nats bullpen in this 7-4 loss at the Astros on Tuesday night, not good. 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 5 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Cole Henry tossed 2/3 of a scoreless inning. He, in the bottom of the 4th, faced 3 batters and got 2 outs. Andrew Chafin officially allowed a run in 2/3 of an inning. He would ended up being a 1-run fit for the Astros, faced 4 batters, but got just 2 outs. He gave up a 2-out single and then issued a 2-out walk. Andre Lara officially allowed 4 runs in 1 2/3 innings. He came into the game in the bottom of the 5th with runners on first and second, 2 outs, and the game tied at 2. And he, on the first pitch that he threw, gave up a 2-out RBI single by Cooper Hummel into right center field for a 3-2 Astros lead. Lara in the bottom of the 6th allowed 3 runs on 4 singles and a walk, and things could have been even worse for Lara because he, in that Astros 3-run 6th with runners on first and second and 2 outs, threw the ball away on a play that ended with Cam Smith being called out for interference in running down the first base line. And yes, I did say that a runner in a Nats game at the Astros was called out for interference in running down the first base line. Yet again, an interference call happens in a game for the Nats at the Astros. So the most famous instance was in the Nats 7-2 win at the Astros in World Series Game 6, October 29th. 2019, then Nats shortstop Trey Turner in the top of the 7th was called out for interference in a very famous play. But we also had a 5-4 Nats walk-off loss at the Astros on June 14th, 2023. Catcher Keibert Ruiz in that game, a throw to first base that went off the batting helmet of Jake Myers and/or the glove of then Nats first baseman Michael Chavis into right field, allowing Jose Abreu to score the walk-off run on what went down as a throwing error by Ruiz. Then Nats manager Davey Martinez, remember him? He came out to argue that Myers was guilty of interference, but no interference was called, and the play was not reviewable. And then also on Tuesday night with the Nats bullpen, Jackson Rutledge officially tossed 1 2/3 scoreless innings. The Nats offense in this 7-4 win at the Astros on Tuesday night was good. 4 runs, 10 hits, 3 walks, 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position. The 10 hits were a home run, 2 doubles, and 7 singles. The Nats did strike out 14 times, so the Nats over the first 2 games of this series have struck out a whopping 33 times. But we had an RBI hit by the slumping James Wood. Good to see that. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter. Went 1 for 5 with an RBI single. Did strike out 3 more times, but Wood in the Nats 1-run 7th had a 2-out RBI single to right center field to cut the Nats deficit to 6-3. Luis Garcia Jr., he is the Nats starting second baseman and number 3 batter. Went 2 for 5 with a 2-run homer and a single. Garcia in the Nats 2-run third had a 2-out 2-run homer to right field on an 0-2 pitch down around his ankles for a 2-1 Nats lead. That was impressive. C.J. Abrams had a good game. He is the Nats starting shortstop and number one batter. Went 3 for 4 with a double, 2 singles, and a walk. And he went 3 for 4 on stolen bases. Did get picked off, but overall, Abrams was good. And Dalen Lyle, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 7 batter. Went 2 for 4 with an RBI double and a single. Game 3 for the Nats at the Astros Wednesday afternoon at 2:10. Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. Well, as we now are a day away from the 2025 MLB trade deadline, which is on Thursday, July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern, how about the unique circumstance of the trade made by the Orioles on Tuesday evening? First of all, the O's now have won each of the first 3 games of a 4-game series against the American League leading Toronto Blue Jays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Monday evening, an 11-4 win, and the O's on Tuesday swept a doubleheader against the Blue Jays. Tuesday afternoon, a 16-4 win in a game in which the O's scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 6th and 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th. And Tuesday evening, a 3-2 win as the O's, Joe Angel, again, were in the win column.
And the Orioles again in the win column.
Yes, Joe, the win column. The O's now have won 5 consecutive games, and now in MLB's 2025 regular season are 50 and 58. Where the heck was this kind of winning back in April and May? The Blue Jays for this regular season now are 63 and 46, tied with the Detroit Tigers for the best record in the American League. And we, in between the 2 games of this doubleheader sweep by the O's of the Blue Jays on Tuesday, had a trade between the O's and Blue Jays. The O's on Tuesday evening announced having traded reliever Seranthony Dominguez and cash considerations to the Blue Jays for starting pitching prospect Juaron Watts-Brown. The trade was announced between games 1 and 2 of the doubleheader, and Dominguez in game 2 of the doubleheader, the 3-2 Orioles win, made his Blue Jays debut, pitched against the O's. Dominguez tossed a scoreless, hitless, and walkless bottom of the 7th with 2 swinging strikeouts despite issuing a 1-out hit by pitch. But I really like this trade for the O's. Watts-Brown was the Blue Jays' number 10 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. The O's turning Dominguez into the Blue Jays' number 10 overall prospect is good. The O's on July 26, 2024 announced having traded outfielder Austin Hayes to the Philadelphia Phillies for Dominguez and outfielder Christian Pache. Dominguez for the O's over parts of 2 regular seasons had the following stats: 68 games, 64 in the 3rd innings, ERA of 3.50, whip of 1.32, strikeouts per 9 innings of 11.5. He was okay for the O's, but he certainly was not great. And so Orioles executive vice president and general manager Mike Elias, in the lead up to this trade deadline, now has made 3 trades, all of relievers. So the O's on July 10th announced having traded reliever Brian Baker to the Tampa Bay Rays for the number 37 overall pick in the 2025 MLB draft, what was a pick in the competitive balance round A of the draft. And the O's, with that number 37 overall pick, took outfielder Slater DeBrun out of a high school in Oregon. The O's last Friday afternoon, July 25th, announced having traded reliever Gregory Soto to the New York Mets for 2 pitching prospects in Wellington Aracena and Cameron Foster. Aracena, at the time of the trade, was the Mets' number 19 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. And the O's now have made this Seranthony Dominguez trade. Who else might be traded by the O's in the lead up to this deadline? Starting pitchers Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, and Tomoyuki Sagano. First baseman / outfielder Ryan O'Hearn. Outfielder Cedric Mullins. All are on expiring contracts. All, in my opinion, should be traded. Additionally, outfielder Ramon Laureano is hitting like crazy. He's under contract through next season via a team option, but he, to me, should be traded because his stock is never going to be higher. I do not think that the O's need to undergo another rebuild. I do think that the O's should sell hard this season and reload for next season when hopefully they'll have better injury luck. We, during this doubleheader, did have a good number of these trade chips on display. Charlie Morton was the Orioles starting pitcher in the 16-4 win over the Blue Jays on Tuesday afternoon in Game 1 of the doubleheader. He was so-so. He allowed 3 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 6 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded just 2 strikeouts. He threw 100 pitches, 64 strikes versus 36 balls. balls. But Morton over 11 starts since returning to the Orioles rotation off having been demoted from the rotation due to being so bad, has allowed 26 earned runs in 60 into third innings. That works out to an ERA of 3.88. More production from Ramon Laureano. The 16-4 win over the Blue Jays on Tuesday afternoon in Game 1 of the doubleheader. Laureano as the Orioles starting DH and number 2 batter went 3 for 5 with 3 singles and a hit by pitch. The 3-2 win over the Blue Jays on Tuesday evening in Game 2 of the doubleheader. Laureano as the Orioles starting left fielder and number 5 batter went 2 for 2 with 2 singles, a walk, and a hit by pitch. Laureano now for this regular season, 289 plate appearances, OPS of 887. Cedric Mullins, he in the 16-4 win over the Blue Jays on Tuesday afternoon in Game 1 of the doubleheader as the Orioles starting center fielder and number 6 batter went 2 for 3 with 2 doubles and 2 RBI sac flies. He did not play in Game 2 of the doubleheader, but Mullins for this month of July has an OPS of 846. Ryan O'Hearn did not play in Game 1 of the doubleheader, but he in the 3-2 win over the Blue Jays on Tuesday evening in Game 2 of the doubleheader as the Orioles starting right fielder and number 6 batter went 1 for 4 with an RBI triple. O'Hearn for this regular season is number 1 among all qualified Orioles players in OPS at 830. Also for the O's in this doubleheader sweep of the Blue Jays on Tuesday was a good outing from Brandon Young. The O's on Tuesday morning announced having appointed Young from High A Aberdeen as the Orioles' 27th man for the doubleheader. And Young as the Orioles starting pitcher in the 3-2 win over the Blue Jays on Tuesday evening in Game 2 of the doubleheader allowed 2 runs in 6 innings with 6 strikeouts. He gave up 6 hits, all of which were singles. He issued 2 walks, so he threw a lot of strikes, 86 pitches, 61 strikes, just 25 balls. So the O's last Wednesday afternoon, July 23rd, announced having optioned Young to AAA Norfolk due to him struggling. But yeah, Tuesday evening was good. The Orioles bullpen in this doubleheader sweep of the Blue Jays on Tuesday was good. The 16-4 win over the Blue Jays on Tuesday afternoon in Game 1 of the doubleheader. 2 Orioles relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 innings. Ynier Cano tossed the scoreless top of the 7th, and Yaramil Geraldo allowed 1 run in 2 innings. A wild last few days for Yaramil Geraldo. The O's on July 26th announced having recalled Geraldo from AAA Norfolk. The O's on Monday afternoon announced having optioned Geraldo to AAA Norfolk. The O's on Tuesday morning announced having recalled Geraldo from AAA Norfolk. And the O's on Tuesday evening announced having optioned Geraldo to AA Chesapeake. And then in the 3-2 win over the Blue Jays on Tuesday evening in Game 2 of the doubleheader, 3 Orioles relievers somehow combined for 3 scoreless innings. Keegan Aiken tossed the scoreless top of the 7th despite giving up a leadoff single and issuing a 1-out walk. The O's on Monday afternoon announced having reinstated Aiken from the 15-day injured list. He had been on that since July 2nd, retroactive to July 1st due to left shoulder inflammation. Andrew Kittredge tossed the scoreless top of the 8th despite giving up a 1-out double and then issuing a 1-out walk. And Corbin Martin closed out the game. He tossed the scoreless top of the 9th with 2 strikeouts for the save, despite issuing a leadoff hit by pitch and then issuing a walk. Martin recorded back-to-back strikeouts of the Blue Jays numbers 1 and 2 batters, and Nathan Lucas and Bo Bichette, respectively, with runners on 2nd and 3rd to end the game. Also, add another Orioles player to an injured list. The O's on Tuesday morning announced having placed reliever Cullen Selby on the 15-day injured list due to a left hamstring strain. Game 4 for the O's against the Blue Jays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, Wednesday afternoon at 12:35. Dean Kramer will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday show, episode 1123. We'll provide you with more on the Commanders. Also on Thursday's show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are at the Houston Astros Wednesday afternoon at 2:10 in Game 3 of a 3-game series. The O's are home to the Toronto Blue Jays Wednesday afternoon at 12:35 in Game 4 of a 4-game series. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
I think about Peyton and, his work ethic is legendary. Jayden has a lot of those traits from working and wanting to be right and loving football.